Hey everyone, today I wanted to talk about a deck that I've been enjoying in this format and that I think is going to stay good for quite a while, BlackWarGreymon.
You're kidding me. Is that what you're after?
What?
You mean this whole time we've been chasing you around, watching you blow up everything blow-upable? You've just wanted to find something to destroy you? Don't you have anything better to do with your free time?
Starting with the level 3s, we're playing 4 copies of BT5 Agumon, 4 copies of BT8 Agumon, and 4 copies of Agumon X Antibody. They're all searchers, but they all notably search different things. BT5 searches a Greymon and an Omnimon, BT8 searches a Greymon and a Dragonkin, and X Antibody searches a Greymon and the X Antibody, which we are not playing. It's a pretty light package, but overall I felt that they are the ones that provide the best consistency boosting, which is what the deck, or really any X Antibody deck, needs the most. Then, moving on to the level 4s, we're running 4 copies of BlackGreymon from BT8, 4 copies of Greymon X Antibody, and 2 copies of Promo Deltamon. Now, Greymon X Antibody has a really powerful effect. It allows you to remove 2 materials of the same level from any of your anywhere in your stack to prevent an effect deletion, bounce to deck, or bounce to hand. This is really important for all of your X Antibody based plays. This is why you want to go oftentimes like Agumon into Agumon X, into Greymon X, into Metal Gray X, is because the more duplicate materials you have to cut away, the longer that you can keep a guy on board that your opponent just can't out. Deltamon might seem like a weird choice. It's not in-archetype searchable, but it has a very powerful main effect, which allows you to reduce the Digivolve cost going into a 2-color level 5 by 2. This means that when you go up into Metal Greymon, it's going to be a 2-cost Digivolve instead of a 4. Also, the inheritable effect allows you to delete smaller Digimon based on the number of colors that it has. So on swing, delete 2 3Ks is really important, especially against decks like Jesmon, Bloomlord, and Commandramon, where you want to just like wipe your opponent's potential crackback threats away as efficiently as possible. Moving on to the level 5s, we're on 4 copies of Metal Greymon from BT8, 2 copies of Megadramon, 2 copies of Metal Greymon X Antibody, and 1 copy of Metal Greymon Altarius Mode. Now, obviously, the main level 5s of the deck have no need to be introduced, so I'm not going to talk too much about them. What I do want to talk about the most here is the Metal Greymon Altarius Mode. Now, notably, its name is always treated as Metal Greymon, so you can go Metal Gray into Altarius Mode into Metal Gray X. But beyond that, it has a duplicate, basically the same effect as your Greymon X Antibody, which means that sometimes if you don't have 2 level 5s to go into, you can go into this and still be able to trash duplicate level 4s or 3s under it to keep the protection effect going. Metal Gray X gives you Security Plus in a deck that a lot of the times doesn't need it, but will occasionally try to push a more offensive play to finish the game out. And Megadramon, obviously, being able to pop Tamers is still really good, even in a format where Shoutmon has been banned out. Next, we have our level 6s. We're on 4 copies of BlackWarGreymon and 3 copies of Gaiomon. Obviously, BlackWarGreymon is incredibly powerful, being able to delete up to 6 memory worth of Digimon and Tamers, and the fact that it restands means it's both an effective blocker and an effective board clear. We're playing Gaiomon in lower capacity because it's more of a pushing for game threat. It's something that you're using to try and just like put pressure on your opponent's security stack over and over, and the fact that it has reboot means that it stays a good blocker, though it can't block 2 Digimon the way that BlackWar can. Think of it more like BlackWarGrey is your defensive play, Gaiomon is your offensive play. Also note that Gaiomon is always treated as a Greymon and it's a Dragonkin, so you are able to find it off of all of your relevant searches. Next up, we've got our level 7s. We're on 1 copy of Blitz Omnimon, 1 copy of the BT6 Omnimon X Antibody, and 1 copy of the new Omnimon X Antibody from BT10. Now, Blitz Omni is obviously just a good, like, hybrid for game style maneuver. You just go into it, swing an additional time, and that's all. But it also has the deletion protection that this deck craves a lot. Omnimon X Antibody, I'm starting to like less and less the more that I, like, interact with it. Being able to stop your opponent from attacking is really nice in decks that try to do these big security +3 swings that are happening in this format, but the 6-cost Digivolve is really high, and you lose most of your effects when this Digimon is named Agumon or Greymon. When it's a machine or dragonkin, you lose a lot of those effects to stall out a little bit sometimes. This is one that I would recommend maybe seeking alternatives to. And then we've got BT10 Omnimon X Antibody. The ability to rip up your opponent's security by choice is so incredibly powerful. Not only do you get to look at what's in your opponent's security, you get to specifically take out a card that you want from it. Not only that, but you shuffle your opponent's highest level Digimon on the bottom of the deck. There's just, it's just really good. That's really all I have to say about it. It's just incredibly powerful. The 7-cost Digivolve is high, but we have ways to get around it that I'll explain in a moment. Next up on our tamers, we've got 3 copies of Cool Boy, 1 copy of Nokia Shiramine, and 2 copies of Hiro Amanokawa. Now, Cool Boy, we're only running in 3. I was running it at 4 with no Nokias originally, but the 4th Cool Boy almost never came up by the time you played it. Nokia, on the other hand, allows you to play a Digimon for free, which might be a little weak going into a format where Pomumon is like the most effective floodgate, but we'll see. Really, it's there because the suspend to reduce Digivolve costs is very important in this deck. Like I said, this deck's main flaw is the 4-cost Digivolves on everything. And then Hero gives you a DP boost rather than a security plus you would get from Tai, which I think is more important here because you really just want to be constantly beating over your opponent's Digimon, and a Gaiomon isn't going to clear a Dexmon without any help. And finally, for the options, we're on 2 copies of win rate 60% and 1 copy of Crimson Blaze. Now, win rate is maybe a bit of a weird choice for those of you that aren't familiar with the deck, but the deck's main weakness is the 4-cost Digivolves on your level 5s and 6s, but win rate lets you go into them for 2 instead at the cost of, like, losing cards in hand. But the deck doesn't worry about that too much because unlike decks like Jesmon, Bloomlord, whatever, you don't need a very specific pile underneath your boss. And so you're not super worried about trashing 1 random card out of your hand to go into your Digivolves. There's a lot of turns I've gotten away with that I honestly wouldn't have been able to do without win rate in my hands. And then Crimson Blaze is just crazy. It stops your opponent from playing cards by effect, it reduces its cost based on the guys it's going to blow up, and it's a board clear. This stops the on-plays of Mastamon, Bloomlord, Jesmon, Examon, Commandramon. It's really a crazy card, and if you wanted to find room for a 2nd copy, I would encourage you to do so. And that's the list. Moving forward, I'm probably going to switch out the BT6 Omnimon for like a 2nd Crimson Blaze or something. But the deck overall stays relatively consistent and powerful for the next little while. In fact, going into BT11, we're getting even more support that looks honestly kind of crazy. The deck's getting a little expensive, but like I said, it stays good for at least the next set. And it's a lot of fun. It's really rewarding to do these like long, grindy games where your intent is to like choose between blowing out your opponent's board or going for the security checks. It's not like Jesmon where you're like swinging, pulling a bunch of magic tricks out of your ass, and like suddenly you're checking 5 with a bunch of utility monsters in play. It feels solid and it's rewarding to like win matches with. But yeah, overall, I think the deck's good. I highly recommend it. It's not complicated. And I'll catch you in the next one. Peace. God, forgot the goddamn eggs for that guy.